Gentleman from Texas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent to revise and extend my remarks and add extraneous material.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, President Bush deserves much credit for the handling of the spy plane crisis. However, he has received significant criticism from some of his own political supporters for saying he was very sorry for the incident. This seems a very small price to pay for the safe return of 24 American military personnel. Trade with China should be credited for helping to resolve this crisis. President Bush, in the diplomatic handling of this event, avoided overly strong language and military threats, which would have done nothing to save the lives of these 24 Americans. This confrontation, however, provides an excellent opportunity for us to reevaluate our policy toward China and other nations. Although trade with China for economic reasons encouraged both America and China to work for a resolution of the spy plane crisis,
And will suspend.
our trading status with China should be
The gentleman will
reconsidered.
please suspend. I'd like to call the House to order. The gentleman is entitled to attention, and if members choose not to pay attention, I would ask respectfully that they leave the chamber. The chair is going to wait until the conversations in the hall of the House stop. Could those in the middle, if they would conduct their conversations elsewhere, the gentleman is entitled to some quiet. I thank the members for giving their attention to the gentleman of Texas. Gentleman may continue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what today is called free trade is not exactly that. Although we engage in trade with China, it is subsidized to the tune of many billions of dollars through the Export-Import Bank, the most of any country in the world. We also have been careless over the last several years, allowing our military secrets to find their way into the hands of the Chinese government. At the same time, we subsidize trade with China, including sensitive military technology. We also build up the Taiwanese military while continuing to patrol the Chinese border with our spy planes. It's a risky, inconsistent policy. The question we must ask ourselves is how would we react if we had Chinese airplanes flying up and down our coast and occupying the airspace of the Gulf of Mexico? We must realize that China is a long way from the U.S. and is not capable nor is showing any signs of launching an attack on any sovereign territory of the United States. Throughout all of China's history, she has never pursued military adventurism far from her borders. That is something that we cannot say about our own policy. China traditionally has only fought for secure borders predominantly with India, Russia, Japan, and in Korea against the United States, and that was only when our troops approached the Yalu River. It should not go unnoticed that there is no vocal support from any of our allies on our spy missions, for our spy missions along the Chinese coast. None of our allies bothered to condemn the action of the Chinese military aircraft, although it technically was the cause of the accident. Don't forget that when a Russian aircraft landed in Japan in 1976, it was only after many months we returned the plane to Russia in crates. Although there is no doubt that we technically have legal grounds for making these flights, the question really is whether or not it is wise to do so or necessary for our national security. Actually, a strong case can be made that our national security is more threatened by our patrolling the Chinese coast than if we avoided such flights altogether. After a half-century, it's time to reassess the need for such flights. Satellite technology today gives us the ability to watch and to listen to almost everyone on Earth. If there is a precise need for this type of surveillance for the benefit of Taiwan, then the Taiwanese ought to be involved in this activity, not American military personnel. We should not feel so insecure that we need to threaten and intimidate other countries in order to achieve some vague psychological reassurance that we're still the top military power in the world. This is unnecessary and may well represent a weakness rather than a strength. The Taiwanese Relation Act essentially promises that we will defend Taiwan at all costs and should be reevaluated. Morally and constitutionally, a treaty cannot be used to commit us to war at some future date. One generation cannot declare war for another. Making an open-ended commitment to go to war, promising troops, money, and weapons, is not permitted by the Constitution. It is clear that war can be declared by a Congress, only by a Congress currently in office. Declaring war cannot be circumvented by a treaty or agreement committing us towards some future date. If a previous treaty can commit future generations to war, the House of Representatives, the bodies closest to the people, would never have a say in the most important issue of declaring war. We must continue to believe that and be confident that trading with China is beneficial to America. Trade between Taiwan and China already exists and should be encouraged. It's a fact that trade did help to resolve this conflict without a military confrontation. Concern about our negative trade balance with the Chinese is irrelevant. Balance of payments are always in balance. For every dollar we spend in China, those dollars must come back to America. Maybe not buying American goods as some would like, but they do come back as they serve to finance our current account deficit. Free trade, it should be argued, is beneficial, even when done unilaterally, providing a benefit to our consumers. But we should take this opportunity to point out clearly and forcefully the foolishness of providing subsidies to the Chinese through such vehicles as the Export-Import Bank. We should be adamantly opposed to military technology to such a nation, or to any nation for that matter. It is interesting to note that recent reports reveal that missiles coming from Israel and financed by American foreign aid were seen on the fighter plane that caused the collision. It should be equally clear that among the enemies of our trading partners arming the enemies of our trading partner doesn't make a whole lot of sense either. For American taxpayers to continue to finance the weaponry of Taiwan and to maintain an open commitment to send troops if the border dispute between Taiwan and China erupts into violence is foolhardy and risky.
Ms. Norton.